This is really exciting. I actually took Professor Chun's class when I was at Yale, and he's awesome, so it's an honor to be here. So, the past 3 years of my life have been a whirlwind. I moved 3 times, I wrote 2 books, I published one of them, and I actually started my own business. 3 years ago, my life looked incredibly different. I was living in New York City, and I was working full-time as an actor. I had an agent, I was a member of the Actors Union, and I had just come off being in one of the biggest musicals of all time, which was Wicked. Have any of you seen Wicked? Yeah. So it's a really big musical, and on the outside, everything was going great. If I kept going in this direction, maybe I could do a lot in theater, and it sort of all seemed to be pointing in that one direction. But on the inside, I was racked with doubt, and I was incredibly scared. The reason being, theater and acting was what I had thought to be my life dream. Ever since I was 2, I went to see my first Broadway show, which was The Phantom of the Opera. Claps for Phantom of the Opera. I don't know why. I was, obsessed with theater. I went to theater camp. I would sing in the shower. My parents heard me, I would sing soundtracks all the time. So I was obsessed. And then in college, even though I did have a lot of interests and I actually majored in English, I decided when I graduated that I had to go for it. I had to go for theater because if I didn't, I would regret it. So I did. And the relative success I had early on with Wicked was very complicated for me because on the one hand, it was amazing. It was the fulfillment of literally a lifelong dream. But on the other hand, it made me see pretty quickly that what I had thought was my lifelong dream might not actually be what I want to do for the rest of my life. And when I was researching this experience, I thought, this is sort of like a footnote in life, right? So you start one place and you end up another, but we don't always talk about that process. And I wanted to get in the mindset of what that felt like. Because, I'm an actor and I wanted to kind of access those emotions. So I pulled up a bunch of the emails I had been writing at the time, and I found the email I wrote to my agent when I finally had made a decision, and it said something like, "Hi, David. Please cancel all my auditions. I need to take a long break from acting. I don't know whether or not this will be permanent. I'm sorry, but my heart is just not in the business, and it doesn't fulfill me in the way I thought it would. Please know that this is not impulsive. This comes after many months of trying to figure out what to do with my life. Sorry if I've wasted your time, but this is my truth." So, even in saying it back now, I kind of relive the feelings of being there. And it's a horrible place, right, to not know what you're going to be doing with your life. And that horrible thing, my friends, is what I want to talk to you about today. And that is the process of revision. So, the official title of this talk is, "There is no final draft. Keep revising your life to create your reality." So maybe some of you can relate to what I just described, that feeling of going in one direction or maybe kind of trying to figure out where to go next. Or maybe some of you are lucky enough to never have been confronted by those feelings of doubt yet. But just so we're all on the same page, I want to kind of delve into what I mean by revision. So the first thing that I think of when I think of revision, I tried to make clear by this visual aid, which is the process of submitting a paper or an essay to a teacher, and I know we can all relate to that, and getting it back, and then seeing all the nasty red ink on the page, and the X's and the underlines and the question marks, and it's just the worst feeling, right? To think that you're completely done with something, but then to read the margins that say, not quite, or go deeper, or think again. So this experience is kind of a microcosm of what I'm talking about on a grander scale, which is a life revision. So I wanted to define what I meant by that. And a revision, in this case, means any change that meaningfully alters your day-to-day life in the long term, right? So a revision can be something that's planned. In the case of taking a break from acting, I thought about it for many months. Or it can be unplanned. Life sends you so many curveballs, and a lot of times a revision can be a reaction to that. Revision can also be of varying degrees. It can be a 180-degree change that's very drastic, but I'm not necessarily talking about starting over or completely leveling your life. There can be varying degrees. It can be a recalibration or a refocusing. So that's what I mean by revision. And then when I was thinking about giving this talk, I knew that this topic meant a lot to me, but then I thought to myself, okay, so am I talking to everybody as like this expert in revision? And the answer is absolutely not. I'm not speaking to you as an expert, but I realized I am speaking to you as a revision advocate or a revision agent. And hopefully my goal is to encourage you and empower you to be able to embrace this process of change as opposed to be totally freaked out by it. So that's where I'm coming from. And in order to do that, I figured I would leave you with my top 3 tips for making a revision. And that's actually a photo of me because it was royalty free. So I put that photo of me right there. Okay. So my top 3 tips for making a revision. The first has to do with ignoring the odds. And that is, if you're innovative, the odds will never be in your favor. So my path in particular has led me to the arts. I've always been really into theater and now writing. And you know, the chances and the statistics of someone actually making a living doing these things are horrible. So I've had to get used to ignoring the odds and completely drowning out the sound of people telling me whether or not, you know, this looks like a good prospect for my life. And similarly, if you're contemplating a change of direction, a change in gear that is unorthodox or innovative, the same is going to be absolutely true for you. You are by definition going against the odds. So my point is that it's sort of an irrelevant data point to think about, well, you know, let me consult, you know, these statistics on this. And the thing is, the people who care about you the most are going to be the ones who are telling you they're going to want a more secure life path for you. So they're going to point these things out to you. But I would encourage you that when you're really listening to your gut and you're really considering what step to take next, you just got to ignore the odds, man. Because if you're going against the grain, you're going to be going against the odds by definition. So that's my first tip. My second tip is that revisions can be terrifying and stressful, and you will freak out. That's a little visual humor for you guys. Okay, so basically I wanted to tell you guys to embrace the fear aspect. And I feel like this could lead to 100 TED Talks, the aspect of fear when you're going through any life revision. But I did want to bring this up because I feel like it's such a universal experience, and it's almost so obvious, right, that change is scary. But when I was at first writing this speech, I didn't think to mention it, because I think we have a tendency when we're being like polished and talking about a topic, and I wanted to be academic about it, I was like, oh, I can't talk about how scary it was. When in actuality, it was incredibly scary, making this huge change. You would think that since I've been on stage a lot acting, that I had these nerves of steel, but that's absolutely not true. I'm very nervous right now. No, but I've encountered a lot of anxiety in my life, and particularly involving huge revision. So I just wanted to put that out there, that everybody freaks out. You freak out, I freak out, we all freak out. The most successful people do, but it's not something that's really talked about. And there are a bunch of resources out there that can help you if you are currently going through a scary time, or if you do in the future. So I actually wanted to invite you to email me, Felicia@FeliciaRicci.com. I have a bunch of resources that have helped me to kind of channel my anxiety and my fear, and I'd be happy to share those with you. Just wanted to put that out there. So my final tip for you is probably the most important tip, and it is that you can't decide by thinking, you can only decide by doing. And this one is a really annoying truth, because if you're like me, you like to think things through. You know, you want to just analyze every possible outcome, and that's great. You know, researching what you want to do with your life or where you want to go is very valuable. You know, making pro and con charts, I did that as well. But the fact is, when it actually comes to making a decision, you're never going to know how it's going to turn out until you actually do that thing, until you actually follow through. And it's just true. And I have 2 examples of this. And one is when I wrote my first book. I really wanted to make sure I would be really good at writing a book before I wrote the book. So I read all these books on books, and I read, you know, books on how to write. But it wasn't until I actually sat down and I wrote the damn book that I realized that I, you know, could do this. This was actually something that fit me, but it was in the doing. On the flip side, after I wrote my first book, which was actually a nonfiction book, I thought to myself, okay, my next goal is I want to write a young adult novel. So similar thing. I read books on young adult novels. I read young adult novels. I watched the Twilight series twice. No, just once. And so, I was like, trying to think it through. And then it wasn't until I took about 8 months and I wrote 200,000 words that I realized that I actually hate young adult novels. No, I don't hate all young adult novels, but me personally, it was not the right fit for me as a writer. And I didn't know until I actually did it. So this is, I think, where you combine the embracing of the fear and ignoring the odds. It's just putting that all behind you and actually doing it. I mean, it sounds simple, but it's a process. And it's one that I hope, I can demystify for you all and encourage you to do. So this is my final slide. Go forth and revise. Today, I live in Pennsylvania, and I spend a lot of my time writing. I teach voice lessons. I run my own company. I help my fiance run his company. I do a lot of stuff, and it suits me for now. So it's an ongoing process of revision. But it's such a crucial element of life, and I just want you all to go boldly forth and create positive change for yourself and also for the world. It's a tall order, but I think we can do it, my friends. Thank you so much for having me here. Okay.
I've got no roots, but my heart